Oh, you're just starting again? You should be ready.
It's ready.
Okay.
But only keeps camera in.
It's set up a portable heater.
Oh, otherwise everything goes pop.
Huh?
Power trip.
No. One heater is. Arrival! Amma, Lala. Where is Lala? It's hot water, but should I just keep it just like that? I was thinking I'll just keep it like this.
Yeah. Then put it inside.
Protection after protection.
Yeah, I should Okay, let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayana Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiraya
Tato Jayamudiraya.
Nasta Prashvabhadreshu
Prajnaprayeshu Abhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhakti Naistike
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki.
Canto 3. The status quo, we are now doing chapter 25. Probably this will be the last chapter we'll do for this trip. And hopefully next time we can do the exams. Text 1. Shonaka Vacha.
Shonaka Uvacha.
You can chant.
Kapilasattva Sankhyaata.
Kapilasattva Sankhyaata.
Bhagavan Atmamayaya.
Bhagavan Atmamayaya.
Jata Swayam Aja Sakshat.
Jata Swayam Sakshat.
Atma Prajnapataye Nranam.
Atma Prajnalaye Nranam.
Translation. Sri Shaunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Okay. So the main thing is he is taking birth here, Atma Prajnapataye, to disseminate transcendental knowledge. So Shaunaka is also confirming that. Kapila Muni already said that, so now Shaunaka is also confirming that. Okay? And then in the second paragraph, Prabhupada says the Vedas are meant to elevate one from the mode of ignorance to the platform of goodness, which we always talk about. Okay? Anything you practice from the Veda, it is meant to lift you up, upwards towards the mode of goodness. Ultimately, do transcendental goodness. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, he is able to understand knowledge of the self or transcendental knowledge. And if you don't practice this sadhana bhakti or trying to pursue divya gyan, you cannot understand it otherwise. It's not possible to understand on your own. So therefore, this has to be done through the proper disciplic succession. Okay? In the end of that paragraph, Prabhupada says, human beings are meant for regulated life. By nature, there is regulation in animal life also. But that is not like the regulative life as described in the scriptures or by the authorities. Okay, so there's a difference. Animal life and human life. Human life means must follow Vedic principles and so on. Animal life don't have. They have something that is instinctive. So which is what the human beings trying to do, most of them, when they want to enjoy life like without any rules and regulations. So here you can see Prabhupada says it is so important for regulation. Human life is regulated, not animal life. So he emphasizes that again. In regulated life, only can one understand transcendental knowledge. So that's the other reason why we have to be regulated. Somehow or other we were talking about this yesterday. Regulation. So it came up again. Huh? Text 2.
नाह्यस्य वर्षमानः पुंसां
नास्यस्य वर्षमानपुंसां
वरिम्नः सर्वयोगिनां
परिणः सर्वयोगिनां
विश्रुतौ श्रुतदेवस्य
विश्रुतौ श्रुतदेवस्य
भूरि तृप्यन्ति मे सवः
भूरि तृप्यन्ति मे शवः.
Shaunaka continued, there's no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses. That's true. What is there than to hear about the Supreme Lord, right? Who is there who won't listen to his glories, right? Correct? Once you start hearing, you see, oh, how wonderful it is that he can do so many things. So there's actually no one equal to him. So hearing about him is as good as seeing him also. So Prabhupada writes in the last paragraph, to hear from Krishna is the real pleasure of the senses. Real pleasure. That means we get some pleasure doing mundane things. We get some pleasure. That's a given. We all get some pleasure. Even rubbing your hands together is a pleasurable feeling. It is.
Yeah.
But actually the real pleasure for the senses is it's transcendental pleasure. So that real pleasure is when we hear about Krishna or hear from Krishna. Directly we hear, so much your senses get pleased. Completely. Complete perfection of the senses is to hear from Krishna, or through his disciplic succession, or through his representative. And therefore, Prabhupada gives another nice way of describing. Therefore, he is known as Govinda. Yeah, so nice. Therefore, he's good. Then it makes sense. That's true. I hear about Krishna, I feel happy. My senses feel great. And then by his words, by his teachings, by his instruction, by everything connected with him, he enlivens the senses. Our intellect also gets very pleased when he does something amazing, right? We are thinking, wow, he can do it, right? And when he gives an instruction, we are thinking, wow, that's a really nice instruction. By his example, we say, wow, he's teaching very nicely. So therefore, all our senses are enlivened simply by Krishna's actions, or whatever he says, or whatever he sets examples. Whatever he instructs is from the transcendental platform. So it's never going to be mundane. Okay? No matter how you want to say. When Krishna descends or takes avatar, he is always absolute. Nothing else. We cannot concoct and think maybe he is little bit material. No. He's the same person, absolute. So, the same way, whatever he speaks is also transcendental. And his instructions, being absolute, are non-different from him. Krishna and his actions are non-different. That's why they say Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. Everything is on the same platform, absolute platform. But one leads to the other. Because you chant Nam, and then when you chant the name nicely, it reveals to you who this person that you are chanting about. So there's no difference between the holy name and the form of the Lord. It's the same person, Rupa. Then, when you keep continuing relishing his form, then you see his qualities. All his amazing qualities are manifesting. And then you see the pastime where he manifests all these qualities, his forms, and so on. So it's all in there, like that, from the simply by focusing on the chanting nicely. Yeah.
I have a very naive question.
Nice.
So, Krishna takes birth of Vasudeva Devaki.
Yes.
And Krishna has his childhood past. Krishna never takes birth, right? Krishna
Yeah.
always-
Yeah.
So that's just a pastime.
Yes. That's only a pastime manifested in Bhauma Lila for this. Yeah. But it's not manifested not even in the spiritual world. Because in the spiritual world, when Yashoda sees Krishna, she always it reminds her of a baby. So like that. Yeah. So that is her Vatsalya Rasa is always there in that way. Then continue hearing from Krishna or his expansion or plenary expansion like Kapila is very pleasing to the senses. Bhagavad Gita can be read or heard many times. But because it gives great pleasure, the more one reads Bhagavad Gita, the more he gets the appetite to read and understand it. So that means if you say you're not getting any pleasure, that means you're not reading. Yeah.
That's it.
Most people say, I don't read. Means you're not reading. Yeah, if you do more often, then you should get pleasure from it. It's true, in the beginning you read, it's dry. But if you read every day, it becomes pleasurable. It's a fact. It's a fact. So anyone who says, oh, I don't know, that means you know the person is not reading. So Prabhupada says, the more one reads Bhagavad Gita, the more he gets the appetite to read and understand it. And each time he gets new enlightenment. So these are clues for our execution. So we know, okay, if we don't do this, this is the reaction I should get. That means I should get some pleasure from it. If I'm not getting pleasure, means something is wrong along the way. I'm not doing it properly. Because Prabhupada says, the more one reads, he gets appetite to read more and understand it. And new enlightenment also. Okay? And that is the nature of anything that is transcendental. Okay?
It's like science.
It
Like
is,
a lab experiment. Do the-
yeah, so you are the lab rat and the experiment. So you test it on yourself and you know it works. Finally, Prabhupada says, similarly we find the transcendental happiness in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So just like you will find happiness in Bhagavad Gita, you should also find that transcendental happiness in the Bhagavatam, which you do. Right? When you've been reading every day, you find it makes a change in your life and that you want to become more transcendental. If you're not feeling you want to be more, then something is wrong. The more we hear and chant the glories of the Lord, the more we become happy. So that is it's a fact. Okay, we don't have to say I don't believe, because all of you have gone through that and you know it makes you happy. If you are not happy, then you won't be coming around. Text 3.
Yadyad vidatte bhagavan
यद्यद्विधत्ते भगवान्
स्वच्छन्दात्मात्ममायया
स्वच्छन्दात्मात्ममायया
तानि मे श्रद्ददानस्य
तानि मे श्रद्धदानस्य
कीर्तयानि अनुकीर्तया
कीर्तयानि अनुकीर्तया.
Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal qualities. So Shaunaka Rishi is asking Sutta Goswami, please continue, because they are getting so much pleasure. Yeah. Text 4.
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
Vaipayana sakatve va evam
Vaipayana-sakastveyam
Maitrayo bhagavamstata
Maitrayo bhagavansata
Rahedam viduram prita
Rahedam viduram prita
अन्वीक्षिक्यां प्रचोदितः
अन्वीक्षिक्यां प्रचोदितः
Sri Sutta Goswami says the most powerful sage, Maitreya, was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Text 5.
मैत्रेय उवाच
मैत्रेय उवाच
पितरि प्रस्थितेरन्यम्
पितरि प्रस्थितेरन्यं
मातुः प्रियचिकीर्षया
मातु प्रिया चिकीर्षया
तस्मिन् बिन्दुसरे अवस्थित्
तस्मिन् बिन्दुसरे वस्ति
भगवान् कपिलः किल
भगवान् कपिलः किल
Maitreya said, when Kardama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovara to please his mother Devahuti. Text 6.
तम् आसीनमकर्माणम्
तम् आसीनमकर्माणं
तत्त्वमार्गाग्रदर्शनम्
तत्त्वमार्गाग्रदर्शनम्
स्वसुतं देवहूत्याः
स्वसुतं देवहूत्याः
दातु संस्मरति वचः
धातु संस्मरति वचः
When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devahuti remembered the words Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows. Text 7.
देवहूतिरुवाच
देवहूतिरुवाच
निर्विन्नानितरां भूमन्
निर्विण्णानितरां भूमन्
असद् इन्द्रियदर्शनात्
असदिन्द्रियदर्शनात्
येन सम्भाव्यमानेन
येन सम्भाव्यमानेन
प्रपन्नाथं तमः प्रभो
प्रपन्नादं तमः प्रभो
Devahuti said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, my Lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance. So basically, Devahuti has been waiting for a while for her son to actually talk about this topic about devotional life, to get out of this material thing. She's saying she's sick of material life actually. Even though her life wasn't so bad compared to so many people, she is not interested anymore. She just wants to go back to God. She's seen her husband go, so now she wants to go also. So therefore she expressed that desire to Kapila, her son. She's saying, I'm tired of this material life. So Prabhupada also says in many purports where one has to become finished with material enjoyment before they can inquire. The same way she said, I'm tired. I'm done. Now that her husband had left home, she wanted to get relief by hearing the instructions of Lord Kapila. So that means unless you have transcendental topics to discuss, you cannot be relieved of anxieties in this material world. So whenever you are conversing on transcendental topics, at that moment when you are discussing transcendental topics, you are always relieved. When you are focused, you must be focused, of course. Not you are in the class but your mind is somewhere else. Then you're not. Then you are actually in material consciousness. Text 8.
तस्य त्वं तमसोऽन्धस्य
तस्य त्वं तमसोऽन्धस्य
दुष्पारायाद्यल्पारगम्
दुष्पारस्याद्यल्पारगम्
सच्चक्षुर्जन्मनामन्ते
सच्चक्षुर्जन्मनामन्ते
लब्धं मे त्वदनुग्रहात्
लब्धं मे त्वदनुग्रहात्
Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental eye, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births. So she's also very intelligent. She understands that to get the opportunity, it's very rare. Remember? Bahunam janmanam ante jnanamam prapadante. So she understands that aspect of her life, So this is very rare, and I've got this mercy, so I want to use this to my fullest. So then Prabhupada explains in the purport, it is very difficult to get out of this entanglement and attain freedom from the material world. But if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a spiritual master like Kapila Muni or his representative, then by his grace one can be delivered from the maya of ignorance, the trap of ignorance. Therefore, we are, for most of us who are practicing Krishna consciousness, we are very fortunate because we have a spiritual master connected to Srila Prabhupada, who is a direct representative of Krishna. So therefore we are very fortunate. We shouldn't take it lightly. We should take full advantage. Text 9.
य आद्यो भगवान् पुंसाम्
यमाद्यो भगवान् पुंसाम्
ईश्वरो वै भवान् किल
ईश्वरो वै भवान् किल
लोकस्य तमसान्धस्य
लोकस्य तमसाधस्य
चक्षुः सूर्य इवोदितः
चक्षुः सूर्यनिबोधितः.
You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have a reason to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe. The purport, Prabhupada says, without the light of the Supreme Lord or without the divine grace of the spiritual master, one cannot see things as they are. So, Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jananjana Salakaya. Same thing. One requires the spiritual master to open our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Same way. So therefore she's saying you disseminate the rays of sun. So the darkness of ignorance. Text 10.
अतामे देव सम्मोहम्
अतामेव सम्मोहम्
अपाकृष्टुं त्वमर्हसि
अपाकृष्टुमर्हसि
यो वग्राहोऽहं ममेतीति
योगपदामोहममिति
एतस्मिन् योजितस्त्वया
एतस्मिन् योजितस्वया.
Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. Due to my feeling of false ego, I have been engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations. So she also wants to not be attached to her body and stuff like that. She really wants to be free of all these designations. And the Prabhupada writes towards the end of the first paragraph, the Lord is merciful. If anyone wants to forget him and enjoy this material world, he gives him full facility. Not directly, but through the agency of his material potency. So Maya will help us in forgetting about the Lord and trying to enjoy this material world. Therefore, since the material potency is the Lord's energy, indirectly it is the Lord who gives the facility to forget. Okay, it's based on our own actions. So the material nature acts on us to cover us or whatever. But it is still his potency. So indirectly he is involved in it. So, but then most people will say, no, he is the one who's doing it. But that's not the case. We put forth the desires and then we become subject to the laws of that material nature. We don't see it. Devotee therefore said, my engagement in sense gratification was also due to you. Now kindly get me free from this entanglement. So in that's how she's using the whole thing, to say that you are involved with everything, so therefore you please, I guess she can say it to her son. So because she only had child for one particular reason, she wanted to have a child. So therefore she says her engagement in sense gratification was also due to like that. By the grace of the Lord, Prabhupada continues, one is allowed to enjoy this material world. So we all are allowed to enjoy. But when one is disgusted with material enjoyment and is frustrated, and one sincerely surrenders on to the lotus feet of the Lord. So the operative word is surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord. Then the Lord is so kind that he frees one from entanglement. So you must get disgusted with the material enjoyment and be frustrated. It's so difficult, isn't it? It's not easy. But when you chant constantly and hear about Krishna constantly, it will happen. It's guaranteed. Krishna says, therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, first of all, surrender, and then I will take charge of you and free you from all reactions of sinful activities. Therefore, one has to surrender first. Somehow surrender. And finally, in the last paragraph, at the end, Prabhupada writes, Devahuti requests the Lord Kapila to free her from that entanglement of false identification and false possession. No, they say chant. Well, that is also surrender. To chant the holy name is also one surrender. You have to start somewhere, the surrender. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes it easier to surrender in stages. Yeah. Everything is levels of surrender. Now it's quiet. It's like Second World War, the bomb just goes boom, 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 and then quiet. Okay, next level.
Tam tvāgatāham sharanam sharanyam
Tamvāgatāham Sharanyam Sharanyam
svabhritya samsārataro-kutaram
Svabhritya samsārataro-kutaram
jignāsayam prakrite purushasya
Jignāsayam prakrite purushasya
namāmi saddharma vidām varishtam.
Namāmi saddharma vidām varishtam.
Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisance unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists. And I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. Just like in the 15th chapter, the material tree, the Aswatha tree, right? Upside down banyan tree. Same thing, we have to cut that tree down. So she's saying, you can cut the tree of material existence. So same way, when we take up devotional life, we get the knowledge to cut ourselves away from all these entanglements. So she's asking Kapila Muni to cut her attachment from this material world also. Practically, we are all thinking, I am this, I am that, and so on. So all these attachment, designations, we give ourselves. This life, I am father. Next life, I am child, wife, this, that. We keep changing, dog, cat, so many designations. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada writes, in this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha. Right? So we are all pretending to be lords. In the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are Prakriti. The living entities are considered Prakriti. Prakriti means to be enjoyed by the Lord, not otherwise. But because we do not know sufficiently how to use our independence in this material world, we are tatastha, we got confused. So then we are thinking we can be happy. But then we find out it's not true. There's no real happiness here. It's actually miserable. Prabhupada writes further down, he says in the middle of that paragraph, of all transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? One has so many occupations. This dharma, that dharma, everyone will tell you what their dharma is. But real dharma is constitutional position, which is the eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And further down he says, similarly, Sat Dharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. And finally, the purpose of Kapila Dev's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service, and therefore is addressed here as the most important personality among those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity.
Same verse.
Yes, that's the occupation. Text 12.
मैत्रेय उवाच
मैत्रेय उवाच
इति स्वमातो निरवध्यमीप्सितम्
इति समातो निरवध्यमीप्सितम्
निशम्य पुंसामपवर्गवर्धनम्
निशम्य पुंसामपवर्गवर्धनम्
धियाभिनन्द्यात्मवतां सतां गते
धियाविनन्द्यात्मवतां सतां गते
प्रभासैषत्स्मितशोभिताननः
प्रभाषईशस्मितशोभिताननः.
Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions. And thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. So, remember in the first canto also, one must be Nirmat Saranam also, and you have to be truthful. You have to be a truthful devotee, honest and truthful. So similarly here, the mother's uncontaminated desire means her desire is truthful. She is not pretending and saying, oh, you tell me, I really want. But inside her heart, she's like, I really don't care. So same way, when we want to approach Krishna, you have to have uncontaminated desire for liberation also. Cannot be, I don't mind enjoying some of this, but you still, it doesn't work like that. Krishna, then it's not going to help us so much. Then you'll say, okay, then you continue until you get tied up with material nature, frustrated with it. Because she had this uncontaminated desire, the Lord was willing. And what did he do? He thanked her. Abhinandya. He was happy and he thanked her. Thank you for being truthful about your position. I will help you now. The same thing as being honest, right? Then you own your problem and you're honest. Then only the Lord will be. Then only you can address your own situation. Yeah, and then he was happy with that, so he was smiling. Ishat Smita. Usually you see the Lord is slightly smiling or glancing, smiling. It's always like that, no?
Yeah.
So, that they are very pleased. You don't find the Lord going, ha 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 ha, like that, right? It's only that demons do that, right? The Lord is very composed. Yeah? Isn't that? I've not even seen the Lord is, no. And then finally, in the last verse, part of the verse, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. So again, the word is interest. One must have the interest. Interest means you are sincere. Then you have the interest. If you are not sincere, then you don't have the interest. You just go with the flow. Let's see what I get. I like it, I'll take it, little bit like that. Interest means he is sincere. Person really want to apply whatever they are hearing. Right? Okay, text 13. I hope no one's parked the car to block it. Huh?
No. Right now?
Otherwise the neighbor will bring his shotgun over there.
Oh, they locked the car.
Oh, they locked the wheel jack. Text 13.
Sri Bhagavanuvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Yoga Adhyatmika Pumsam
योगाध्यात्मिका पुंसां
Mato Nishreyasaya me
ततो निःश्रेयसाय मे
Atyanto Paratiryatra
अत्यन्तो परते यत्र
Dukkasya cha Sukasya cha
दुःखस्य च सुखस्य च
The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. Okay, so pretty much Bhakti Yoga is what it is, right? It describes about the Lord and the individual, and it's for the benefit of the living entity. This is Bhakti Yoga. It's nothing else. Of course, it's the way it is presented is slightly different. It's based on Sankhya. Prabhupada says in the towards middle of the purport, he says, of course, right? So, of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness. But he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. Right? This is the law of the material. Now we have experienced this. Now if someone says no, then they are pretending. We all have experienced. Even if it doesn't follow immediately, it happens. It happens. If you're happy too much, you should worry, because
it's coming.
it's coming. The other side of it is coming. It's true. Right? And if you are,
The higher you go, harder you fall.
materially speaking, not spiritually. If you are happy spiritually, that's a different thing. But materially, if you are having a lot of wonderful things going, then, like they say, it has to end somewhere in the material world, right? So then,
It has to be the beginning and an end.
oh,
Such
yeah.
players have a beginning and an end.
So it is a law in the material world. It's like that. For one who is suffering now, tomorrow he is going to be enjoying. It's like that materially. You will see that. So in this life, maybe you suffer a lot. So then you finish all your bad karma. Then it's only sailing after that. But the same thing after that goes off. Then it's all the cycle. Good, bad, good, bad. And your good and bad doesn't mean that all your good karma one time and all the bad karma. No, it's like spots here and there in your platter. So along the way you pick up bad, then good, bad, 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 good, bad, 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 good, like that. Life is like that.
1-0. Bits 1-0.
Yeah, it's like a bit or whatever. It's like in a platter where the head is reading like that. It's like that. You have good. Every time materially you are getting good, everyone's saying good, then if you have no Bhagavad Gita, you'll be thinking, when's it going to hit me?
Yeah.
If you don't know, then you'll think, I'm so good.
What goes has to come down.
Yeah, exactly. What goes up must come down. They say the higher you go, the harder you fall. When we do yoga or bhakti yoga, you will find that the pleasure is different though. It's on a different level, different scale altogether. Right? All of you have experienced it. It's different. Even when you are unhappy at the workplace, when you think about what you can come and do, you feel very joyful. So it's on a different level. And it's no question of high and low. It's always high. Yeah. Huh? And higher only. It's something that when you think about it, you can actually feel happy thinking about it. Huh?
Anandam Purivata.
Yeah, it's ever expanding, this joy actually. Text 14.
तम् इमं ते प्रवक्ष्यामि
तमिमं ते प्रवक्ष्यामि
यम् अवोचं पुराणघे
यमवोचं पुराणघे
ऋषीणां श्रोतुकामानां
ऋषीणां श्रोतुकामानां
योगं सर्वाङ्गनैपुणम्
योगं सर्वाङ्गनैपुणम्.
O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way. So first of all, he says pious mother. He calls her Puranagi. Anaga. Anaga means one who is sinless or non-envious. Yeah. So even Krishna tells Arjuna, he calls him also Anaga. So one has to be in that platform. One must be sinless. One must be purified. 25th chapter. So therefore, he says, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system. The yoga system is always there, right? It's always there. And every time in different cycles it comes. So therefore, in one sense, it's ancient, but actually it's eternal.
Krishna says the same. Yoga
Yeah.
Prokta Puradana.
Yeah. Puradana. Yeah. Old. And then he says, I have explained formerly the great sages. And Krishna said also that I explained to Vivaswan and Ishvaku, like that, who informed Ishvaku. It is serviceable, means yeah, you can do it. That means it's doable. It's not something you can't do. And this is talking to his mother. It's doable and also it's practical. It's not something you have to stand on your head or something like that to do. It's very practical. Day to day you can do. Text 15.
चेतकलवस्य बन्धाय मुक्तये चात्मनो मतम्
मुक्तये चात्मनो मतम्
गुणेषु सक्तमन्धाय
गुणेषु सक्तमन्धाय
रतं वा पुंसि मुक्तये
रतं वा पुंसि मुक्तये.
The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. So very immediately he is explaining what is material consciousness and what is spiritual consciousness. Very quickly. He doesn't want to make
No beating around the bush.
no beating around the bush. Why? Because this is so straightforward. You don't need to, tell a whole long story. If the person is complicated, then you are forced to give so many examples and like the story of Puranjana, so long the story, right? Narada Muni tells to King Rajini Bharasha. Yeah. Just to bring him to understand that this story is about you. But here you have a person who is wanting to get out already. There the person was not thinking like this. So therefore there's a difference. It's just an amazing way.
Preaching.
Yeah.
It's amazing reply. But Devagati is asking about the problems of a material life. She's
Yeah.
telling.
Yeah.
And the
Immediately
Lord-
he
Lord
delineates.
says, like, this is okay, this is problem material
Yeah.
life, and immediately he gives the other perspective.
Yes. That's true. Nobody. All this is conditional and you're going to suffer, and this you do, you're not going to suffer. Very straightforward. No two ways about it. So that's exactly what Prabhupada is telling us. Do everything in Krishna's service and you'll be happy.
Also,
Yeah.
what's your lectures like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Direct.
Because
Very simple.
we are always covered, we are constantly, every moment we are getting covered. That's our nature. At the moment we are so conditioned. So therefore Prabhupada always hits every verse he can hit you, he'll hit you. Cut down your pride, ego and so on. So he, in the sense, he's cutting our false ego also. So that's why it's very important to keep reading Prabhupada's book every day. Every day you have to read. Then your false ego, we will give up. Just like Devotee say, I'm covered by my false ego, get rid of it. But she's on a different level, like that, her false ego will go drop off. Huh? Like Brahma drops off each body like that, Devotee can also drop off her consciousness. But we can't, so we have to keep hearing because we are so fallen. That's the problem. Our consciousness is like that. That's the problem. Our consciousness is holding on to the illusion. The moment we give up, we know where we are situated. That's our problem. Text 16.
Aham mama abhimanmuktaihi
Aham mamaभिमानैः
कामलोभादिभिर्मलैः
कामलोभादिभिर्मलैः
वीतं यदा मनः शुद्धं
वीतं यदा मनः शुद्धं
अदुःखम् असुखं समम्
अदुःखम् असुखं समम्.
When one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and greed produced from the false identification of the body as I and bodily possessions as mine, one's mind becomes purified. In that pure state, he transcends the stage of so-called material happiness and distress. So you can see where material happiness and distress is coming from. When you identify with the body and then you say, this is mine. This is mine. He is mine. She is mine. And then that will cause problems, right? If somebody runs through and then carries your baby and goes out, immediately you get distress. Right? It's true. You get so chaotic. It's like that. Of course, you need to protect your child. I'm just saying, we are so attached to so many levels of it. So the point is, we have to understand that everything actually should be connected to Krishna. So that way we won't become distressed unnecessarily. Some celestial. In the purport, the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, one's senses must be engaged in devotional service to the Lord. That is the process. Whatever we have to do must be done for the pleasure of the Lord. That is the right way to do. The mind must have some engagement. We have to be Krishna conscious or Maya conscious. It has to have something. It cannot be nothing. So that is nonsense. One cannot make the mind vacant. Of course, there are some foolish attempts to try to make the mind vacant or void, but that is not possible. Talk about Mayavadis and all the Sunyavadis like that. The only process that will purify the mind is to engage it in Krishna. See, your mind cannot be empty. The soul is so active also. It's always active. Soul is always active. And then the mind is also always trying to grab something. That's its nature, right? Yes, no. Yes, no. Like that. That's how it functions. So you cannot have nothing. The mind will go into a catatonic state. So that's why Prabhupada said, foolish attempts to try to make the mind vacant or void, but it's not possible. The only process that will purify the mind is to engage it in Krishna. And that's a fact. Otherwise, the mind becomes your enemy. Has to be controlled by the Kshetragya. Okay, you are the person control of the body. You're supposed to be the self. You should be in charge. I am the body is under me. I'm going to use it in the service of Krishna. So the Kshetragya has to be aware of this. Then he has to tell the mind, stop messing around. You listen to what I want, and that has to be Krishna conscious. Otherwise, you will be in the stage of so-called material happiness or distress otherwise. Because the mind, what does it do? It is actually the one that is the center for all the senses. He's like the quarterback, for the senses. Okay, enjoy that, yeah. The mind must be engaged properly. If we engage our mind in Krishna, naturally the consciousness becomes fully purified and there's no chance of the entrance of material desire and greed. It's a fact. Once you're always doing for Krishna, where is the chance of material greed? How can it even come? So that is a fact. What Prabhupada says is true. So what is the problem? The problem is our application. Kapila Muni says it's very easily doable, serviceable and practical. So practical means we can do it. But then why, if we can't do, means what? We are not applying it the way it should be applied, or that we are cheating ourselves. Text 17.
तदा पुरुष आत्मानं
तदा पुरुष आत्मानं
केवलं प्रकृते परं
केवलं प्रकृते परं
निरन्तरं स्वयं
निरन्तरं स्वयं ज्योतिर्
अनिमानम् अखण्डितम्
अनिमानम् अखण्डितम्.
At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, although very minute in size. So the soul is how small?
1/10,000.
Atomic. So tiny. Huh? Infinitesimal. Yet look at the... Huh?
The paraphernalia.
Yeah, paraphernalia, the ego, the sheer audacity to think that it is the controller, the doer. Isn't it? When you think about it, we can laugh about it. But that's where we are getting it wrong always. It is so amazing. So that's our position. We are so tiny and like Prabhupada says, sun rays, minute particles in there. And yet he is thinking, I can control. We are part and parcel, but we are not the enjoyer. Actually, we are meant to. We were created for the pleasure of the Lord, to enhance in His name. That's our service. But we don't want to do our service, and so we are paying some fine. Tax 18.
ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तेन
ज्ञानवैराग्ययुक्तेन
भक्तियुक्तेन चात्मना
भक्तियुक्तेन चात्मना
परिपश्यति उदासीनं
परिपश्यति उदासीनं
प्रकृतिं च हतौजसम्
प्रकृतिं च हतौजसम्.
In that position of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. Becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him. So we are talking about someone who's already pretty elevated here. Okay, so then you will say, "Oh, okay, I don't have to do this." but that is not the case. The case is it applies even to a practicing devotee. That means in the practice of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation. So what is this knowledge and renunciation devotion service? What is practice of knowledge means? Yeah. Yukta Vairagya, detachment, attachment to Krishna and material nature.
More about Krishna.
Knowing more about Krishna,
That's knowledge.
that is knowledge. But the practice of knowledge means
Utilizing everything for the service of Krishna.
utilizing.
Everything for the service.
How to utilize anything for the service of Krishna. Yes. Renunciation.
Not using it for
Ah. That is Rupa Goswami says that also. Anukulya and Pratikulya. Like that. Reject and accept. Favorable, reject, unfavorable.
Unfavorable.
Yeah. It should be like that. So we have to see, can I apply in Krishna's service or not? It's not applicable, then why are you thinking about it? Right? Many times we ponder about it. We already get the answer already, but still we don't want to accept it. Right? So then we say it's okay. It's all right. That means we don't apply it. So that's why it says by practice of knowledge and renunciation. Renunciation for us is what? Yeah, same thing. Thinking. That is our renunciation. Nothing is for our pleasure. Everything is for Krishna's pleasure. And that is our pleasure. When Krishna is pleased. Yeah. So then one sees everything in the right perspective. Then you know how to apply it. So that means we have to come to the stage of knowing how to apply everything in our life for Krishna. How to use it. Whether your son or daughter, you have to know exactly how to encourage them, how to discourage them in certain things like that. So you have to know exactly all these things. Then he becomes indifferent to material existence. So this is a higher consciousness already, indifferent to material existence. Doesn't mean that he's wearing ragged clothes and then indifferent, not like that. I mean, he still continues his service duty, he still performs his duty, but he is not attached to any of the results. Yeah. Everything he gives to Krishna.
Our renunciation is renouncing the desire to enjoy for ourselves, not renouncing the thing itself.
No, not the thing, because you're using it in the service of Krishna. Yeah.
Mayavadis, they renounce the matter, but we renounce the desire to enjoy the matter.
Yes. Mayavadis renounce everything. That's what Prabhu said. So, yeah. No, actually, Madhava Chandra is making it more clear.
I heard this in
No, that's the right thing. Yeah.
I was
So that's
hearing in
nice.
lecture.
Yeah.
So the devotee was comparing
Yeah.
different philosophical system to
Yeah.
devotional service. He was looking at all the other systems through the eyes of Bhagavatam,
Bhagavatam.
devotional service. So like this is what we also have renunciation,
Yes, but it's not.
but our renunciation is renouncing the desire to enjoy it.
Yes, yes,
And they renounce the matter itself.
yes. They renounce everything. We don't renounce. Actually, we are not renouncing, as Prabhu is saying. We only
Renouncing the desire.
the desire, but everything else is for. The desire becomes Krishna's desire.
So that's fine. So like if we say we renouncing the desire to enjoy the matter, but we are not taking that favorable, that using that matter for the in service of Krishna. These two different aspects. That's my understanding.
What he's saying is adding to that, we are renouncing the desire to enjoy the matter. At the same time, we are trying to utilize that matter for the Krishna's pleasure. That makes it more complete. That's what.
Because it's the other half that I was thinking.
Okay, that is correct. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, without knowledge, one cannot have realization. So that means you must have knowledge. You have to be studying the books, Prabhupada's books. You must study Prabhupada. Otherwise, you have no knowledge and therefore you can't have realization. The realization that one is the infinitesimal part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit makes him unattached to material conditional life. So this realization must also sink in, that we are infinitesimal, we are useless. That one must hit hard. Then we won't be attached to the material things anymore. If it doesn't hit hard, then you are always identifying with yourself, the body, through your false ego.
What
Bra-
somebody was saying. Yeah, think about it. 10 years' time, nobody will even remember us. And I was thinking, in a week's time, nobody will remember us. Actually, whether it's in birthplace
No, it
or any
depends.
place.
Depends on the situation. If you're with devotees, they'll remember.
Devotees.
Yeah. Well, if you are just working for some kind, they don't remember. They don't care. Huh? Yeah, it's just one of the part and parcel of their company.
And then they replace the part.
Replace the parts.
Krishna does not replace the part.
Huh?
Infinitesimal part.
Yeah, for their company. Expendable part, actually.
They replace the part, but Krishna does not replace his part.
Yes.
He's looking for other
That's why Prabhupada used the word part and parcel. It's both. It's needed both ways, part and parcel. And then Prabhupada continues, that is the beginning of devotional service. That when you realize that you are actually a small part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and then you give up material things willingly because you know that's not what you are, that is the beginning of devotional service. That realization must start, and then you must start renouncing in the right, true order. Huh? Unless one is liberated from material contamination, one cannot engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. One must be cleansed of all the sinful activities. Takes some Antagatam Bhava. Yes. Jnananam Punyakam. So one has to come to that. So that's one of the reasons why we also do 4 regulative principles and so on, so that we stop committing sinful, because they will hold us down. Text 19.
न युज्यमानया भक्त्या भगवति अखिलात्मनि सदृशोऽस्ति शिवत्वन्तः योगिनां ब्रह्मसिद्धये
Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the only auspicious path. Any kind of yogi must be connected with some devotion, otherwise the results are not achievable. Prabhupada says, knowledge and renunciation are never perfect unless joined by devotional service. When there is devotional service, then the question is where to offer that service. Devotional service is to be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the super soul of everything. But that is the only reliable path of self-realization or Brahman realization. Prabhupada also continues later on. He says there are different kinds of yogis, but every yogi is supposed to engage in self-realization or Brahman realization. It is clearly stated here that unless one is fully engaged in the devotion service of Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot have easy approach to the path of Brahma Siddhi. Brahma Siddhaye, right? Yoginam Brahma Siddhaye. So, no easy path. Not so easy. Then towards the end of the second paragraph, Prabhupada continues, Brahma Siddhi through devotional service is realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The understanding of the effulgent rays of the body of the Supreme Godhead is not the perfect stage of Brahma Siddhi. Why is that not perfect?
It covers only the Sattva aspect. Chitta Ananda.
Yeah. No, there's Ananda, but very little. Yeah. I mean, it's more than the material, but it's still infinite. And it's not complete because there's no interaction, no service, no relationship. No relationship. All these things are missing. Yeah, so therefore it's incomplete realization.
So some of these Mayavadi sannyasis also speak very eloquently, portray an image that they are also getting a lot of bliss. So are they pretending or are they getting something?
No, they are detached, no? When you are detached from the material nature, you get some ananda. It's a very little ananda, but it's not the transcendental level.
So people seem to get very attracted with that
Yeah,
kind
of course, you know, anyone who does austerity becomes attractive, right?
Yeah, it's like somebody carrying a loads on their head,
Yeah.
and the load is dropped off, and they feel relief.
Yeah,
That means little happiness.
Yeah.
That's what they're feeling. That
yeah.
Mayavadis.
Because when you're in the material nature itself, so much distress. So once they stop all their material activities, they feel, this is very nice. But that's not the goal, actually.
And same, for example, I will also give long term as one example. Like
Yeah,
stuck in my
go
mind.
on.
You are wearing a shoe which is not fitting you, but you have to wear because it's there full of thorns in the path you're going. And then after crossing the path, end of the forest, there's a tree, you're sitting down, and you remove the shoe. This is so uncomfortable. Then you'll really feel, this is happiness.
Yeah, that is Brahman realization.
So you really feel that you are relieved. So you feel you are happy. But actually that's not happiness, you just stop suffering.
Yes, exactly. So mostly when you meet this impersonalists, they are because they have stopped interacting with the matter so much. So therefore they are going through that kind of relief, happiness.
Going to the book. After you keep the example, you keep the load down, then you get the massage actually. That's Ananda.
That's bit of a
Okay, anyway, Prabhupada continues. Nor is the realization of Paramatma feature of the Supreme Person perfect. Why is that not perfect also?
Because Paramatma is impartial.
Yeah, he's not interactive. Yeah, there's no actually.
Just Upadrishta and
Yeah,
I like how you said not interactive.
yeah, it's not interactive. There's no service. You just stare at him, he stares at you.
So there is that verse where Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshu sinapaya tariye bhajanti tumam.
Yeah, you have
So the first two can be Samoham sarva bhuteshu can be applied to like a Paramatma.
Well,
which
that's
are
how
not-
they
not-
will, but not necessarily. Yeah, but they use it like that.
I'm just saying for our understanding. Yeah, I know in theory he's saying about Bhagwan, but we can say that Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu feature is in Paramatma. It's like that.
On the
Right,
generally yes, but then you have to see when for a bhakta it's not like that.
Yeah.
For
That's
the
why the next
general,
line is
yes.
about the Bhaktas. He's
So
a
that's
friend.
two in the line. One is in general I'm the Paramatma,
Yes.
and therefore I whatever people want or so on, I'm equal. I'm not, but
One devotee.
for those who interact with me personally, I'm personal with them.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. So that's why he says that way. Actually, all these are not known to us if Prabhupada didn't reveal it to us. Right? We would be all can't even perform devotional service. That's the thing. Can't think about it. Yeah.
Like, on every one of this verse, there's a movement, like Brahma Siddhi. Some people only talk about Brahma Siddhi.
Yeah,
without
but they don't understand
touch
what
of
it really
Krishna.
means. Yeah. Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they will only pick what they want and then they'll talk. You're right. Exactly what is it? But you have to understand this is how it is. It is the Vedas are all perfect. Bhagavatam is perfect. But it's written like that so that people like that will not get the real understanding. Right? In the first three slokas, Vyasadeva already tells you, I'm kicking all these people out. Yeah, so there you get this. So they will look for this and they got kicked out. So they don't get the essence of it. Even in the very first thing, they will only think of a Brahman like that. They cannot understand Bhagavan at all. Not possible. Prabhupada continues, for Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Akilatma. He is the Super Soul. One who realizes the Supreme Personality realizes the other features, namely the Paramatma feature, the Brahman feature. Remember we were talking? If you look at Krishna, he has bodily effulgence. Brahman is already there. And then you look at him carefully, he's the four-ended person, is already in him. He's also there. Everything is there. So why, why go to a millionaire and ask for $1 donation? So it's ridiculous. So therefore, Prabhupada says that total realization of Bhagavan understanding is actually Brahma Siddhi. So the word Brahma also, like Prabhu was saying, people just whack it. They whack it until it's empty. Right? But actually it's full of understanding. If we don't have this purpose of Prabhupada, we will be confused also. Because then people will go according to the the nomenclature or the way the word is used, and then they'll say, according to the Sanskrit dictionary, this is what it means. Then you're stuck. And then there's so many rules, right, to pick on or how. For us, everything must refer back to that Paribhasa Sutra, right? Which one? Yeah, so that verse must go. So it goes back to Krishna. So does it apply? How does it apply? In what ways it applies like that? So then we use it like that. Then we get understanding. Oh, okay, so this. So we can't understand, then we refer to the acharyas, previous acharyas, their notes and so on. Then we know, okay, this is. Sometimes they get so technical you can't even understand. All you know is Krishna and Supreme Bhagavan. It's true. Sometimes.
That is our fallback strategy.
Yeah. It is so difficult to understand the way they discuss the terms, how it's mentioned in this Purana, that Purana, this is how, and then they finally say this is what it is. And then you're like, oh, okay, continue. Actually, we are nowhere near. So whatever Prabhupada gives is for us. Easy to understand, easy to digest.
Baby food. Baby food.
Baby food, yeah. Text 20.
प्रसङ्गं मजरं पाशं आत्मनः कवयो विदुः स एव साधु सुकृतो मोक्षद्वारम् अपावृतम्
Mokshadwaram. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. So for the self-realized devotees, they are not entangled because they use it in the service of Krishna. So therefore they get to open the door of liberation even though the others are trapped. Huh? It's just amazing the way it's done. Mokshadwaram, in the same thing. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life. So for all of us, we have to look at it and say, my existence here is because I'm attached to so many things here. I have to accept that, then we can move on. And the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. So then there's a contradiction, right? It is binding me, then how is it not? So continue. Attachment cannot be killed. Oh, okay. So we learn something. That means the soul is going to be attached to something. Because by nature we are tatastha. So we are either attracted to Maya or Krishna. So Prabhupada says it has simply to be transferred. Right? He says, Arey, just transfer the attachment. Okay, so then how are we to transfer material attachment? So Prabhupada continues. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness. And attachment for Krishna or his devotees is called Krishna consciousness. Yeah, but I still want some of material things. So let's see. Consciousness, therefore, is the platform of attachment. Okay, so then it's how I'm thinking about it. That's where attachment takes place. So, matter or spirit. Okay. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. So what is this purifying material consciousness to Krishna consciousness mean?
Devotion service.
Yeah, one is devotion service. The other one is, we were already talking all the time, is to use it in the service of Krishna. Yeah. Prabhupada continues, despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. We have to be desiring.
By design we are.
Yeah, by design.
So you cannot kill the
Actually, you shouldn't use the word by design because it's not a populist word. Yeah. By nature,
nature.
you say we are. Prabhupada uses by name. We are created to have desire. What is that desire? A living entity by constitution has the propensity to be attached to something. And you can see this in your life, in society, in workplace. Somebody is attached to something, right? Even the animals also are attached to something. Or the person is attached to the animal. Or the person is attached to his property, to a person, to whatever he likes is attached. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs.
They write the will also.
Yeah, you're right. They write it in the will also. So you can see that is an attachment. They could give it to some other use, right? But they give it to the cats, and then there will be people who take care of the cats, and then it goes through the law process. The judge will pass it, and then they'll say if the cat dies within so many days, then you can't get the money and all those things. So there's all this going on in the name of democracy and so on, or justice. It's all nonsense.
Cat was fortunate but not fortunate.
Yeah, how can the cat understand? If you throw the cat out, he'll still sleep out somewhere.
I always remember one statement made by Ansutha Prabhu. Actually, it stuck in my mind. He said he wrote the will. When he wrote his will, he said if my whole family dies, my entire property goes discount. So it actually stuck in my mind. So we all should have something like that.
Yeah, everyone should.
Don't,
yeah.
Some state is going to take over.
Not only the state, your own family members will come.
They may not be able to climb, some of them.
Oh, you don't know how these people do things.
No,
I've seen it, bro.
I understand. But I'm just saying.
Especially in this
here,
country.
especially in this country.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the
it might
state
go-
will
it might
take
go to
it.
the states.
State will take it.
So better all of us write some will. Just now it struck me. Now this is the proof.
Yeah, write a will that 50% goes to Krishna.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. Because it's good to have a will.
Yeah. Even if you don't have something, still put it in a will. Because I've seen it. I've seen devotees who didn't do. Their family members come and do.
They can't claim.
No, because there's no will, so the next family members can claim.
Take.
Yeah.
I think here is a state law.
No, I think it's.
You get a blood relationship.
Who is the closest relative?
Yeah,
will give
there are
you
laws.
They have to prove all those.
Yeah,
They'll make it.
Even when the person is dying, I've seen it. They will be fighting among themselves. This is mine. I'm taking this and all that. So devotees should always write. So once they know, they will. And I also know one devotee who wrote the will and gave it to ISKCON. They got so angry, the family members. They were fighting with the devotees. They said, "This is you guys brainwashed. We're going to take you
This
to
is the
court."
Houston donor.
Huh?
The Houston donor.
No. Please don't speculate. If I say I go to so many different places. I'm just telling you. So this person was fighting in front. The person is still dying. And the person is knocking on and off. It's just a matter of days the doctor is given. So this person is, yeah. So once you have it, nobody. I mean, like I said, that's another case where the will was there. They argued until I think the GBC found out. When the GBC found out, the GBC told the person who was dying to change it before they leave the body. Called the lawyer, lawyer, everybody came and they redid the thing. Because he said it's going to be in this kind of battle family and all that.
You need to inform the temple authorities also there.
Yeah. This was done way before.
Yeah, there should be an executor of the will.
Yeah, so anyway, the people were making so much noise. So then the GBC told the person was dying to change it. The executor, everybody was there. So they had to redo the whole thing. Then the family became happy. Then they became favorable to ISKCON. They were very favorable after that. So you can see how much the money, Lakshmi is for them. Yeah. So Prabhupada continues, our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state. But the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. So that means we have to give up the material attachment and try to focus on more the spiritual aspects of it. The devotees, Srila Prabhupada, spiritual master, Krishna, temple, like that. Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to the self-realized devotees, the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or long beard. A sadhu is described in Bhagavad Gita as one who unflinchingly engages in devotional service. So then you have to see how much devotional service the person is doing. Even though one is found not to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhureva sa mantavya. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. So again, now also when we want to be good devotees also, so we also should see, am I a strict follower of devotional service? Will I fall under that category of a sadhu? Doesn't matter whether you are a man or a woman, you have to ask yourself, do I follow? Do I fall in this category? It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to the sadhu or devotee. Which means we have to always be attached to a devotee, advanced devotee. Lord Chaitanya also confirmed this. Labha matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hai. Simply by a moment's association with a sadhu, one can attain perfection. Yeah, Narada Muni also had the same benefit. Mahatma, Prabhupada continues, so this whole paragraph is very nice. Mahatma is a synonym of sadhu. It is said that service to a Mahatma, or elevated devotee of the Lord, is Dwaram Ahur Vimukte, the royal road of liberation, not the royal road of hell. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. This is spoken by Rishabh. Rendering service to the materialists has the opposite effect. Okay, there's an effect also. If you serve devotees, you get one kind of effect. When you serve materialists, you also get another effect. Yeah, that means one will pull you to material thing, the other one will pull you to the spiritual side. So there's two things there that we have to think carefully. Rendering service to materialists has the opposite effect. So, but then, therefore Prabhupada has given us that we have to purify the results of doing those service to materialists. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged only in sense enjoyment, then by association with such a person, the door to hell is open.
Tridwaram Narakasya.
So one is liberation, the other one is
Condition.
further
Further
condition, deeper. So it's hell, hellish life. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshipper, and a sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. So you must feel these things with the sadhu, that am I worshipping properly? Am I doing deity worship? Am I becoming a sincere devotee? Am I sincere enough to take up the services, to respect devotees like that? These are the gifts of a sadhu. If we want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition. So mostly people ask that. Generally, I find, usually they ask this kind of questions. But he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction, and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is the result of associating with the sadhu. Right? They go to their guru and say, my job is this, my job is that, my life is like that, my grandmother is like that, all this. So many material problems, they'll say. But they never ask, how can I improve my spiritual life? Generally, there are good ones also, but generally because people get so caught up and then they are drowning and then they are struggling, they want help in that situation. They feel that they cannot breathe, so they want help, and then they can, the first person they see as a savior is their guru, and then they immediately say, help me. This is my situation. So many times the gurus get involved in all this thing, and then if they give an instruction that doesn't suit that situation, immediately they say, my guru doesn't know what he should do, like that. He doesn't know my problems. Therefore, you have difficulties. That is the result of associating with the sadhu. Kapila Muni, first of all, instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association.
Famous words come. Next question.
Titiksheshva Karunai. Text 21. Anything else in this? Okay, let's continue. Text 21.
Question.
Yeah.
So, not in this verse, but in the previous verse, it said attachment to either Krishna or a
Attached to the
devotee of
previous
Krishna. Or a devotee of Krishna. So, when people get attached to a devotee of Krishna, it is in a particular mood, isn't it? Like now, every devotee of Krishna is in a particular way they are serving. So, does the follower of that devotee also get attached?
Well, basically, the relationship is guru and disciple relationship. Doesn't matter where, who and what. It should be there.
Okay.
The problem happens is when you start thinking, sometimes some Madhajis look at the guru and then say he's like my husband, and then like that. Then that's a problem. Or the guru looks at the girl and then thinks, oh, she can be my wife. That's a problem. Or the sannyasi.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about that
But
aspect.
you are saying relationship. This is part of the thing, no? You don't want to think of the extremes, but it is there.
Possible.
Yeah, it is possible. It's not possible. It has happened in our movement. So we have to. Yeah. So if you have a good relationship, that relationship must be in a higher and lower. That kind. Then you can have a meaningful relationship. Equality is not the. We are not talking about that here. Not ready for that also. But that comes when you are in the category of devotees. Kanishta, Madhyama, the Uttama. So we are talking about is the Uttama Adhikari. You serve a Uttama Adhikari. That's what we are talking about. Yeah, someone who's dedicated. That is the sadhu we are talking about. Otherwise, everyone can be a sadhu also. But what sadhu? Madhyam sadhu, uttama sadhu, like that. Yeah. Then you associate accordingly. Yeah. In any case, the relationship is always shiksha. Yeah.
Knowledge transferring.
Yes, and it's not like a ordinary kind of relationship. This is supposed to empower one another. Devotional relationship empowers the individual to make positive changes in one's life to advance. Huh? Is that okay? Yeah. So, 21.
तितिक्षवाः कारुणिकाः सुहृदः सर्वदेहिनां अजातशत्रवः शान्तः साधवः साधुभूषणाः.
Symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. I know some of you are thinking he has no enemies. Means from his part, he has no enemies. Yudhishthira Maharaj is bigger, but there's so many in our movement also who are like that also.
Specifically in Bhagavatam, they call him Ajatashatru.
Yes.
Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had no enemies,
Yeah.
but some people felt that he was their enemy.
Yeah. So even in our movement, also, there are many nice devotees. They may not be high level, but they all have these qualities also. So in the Papa Prabhupada writes, a sadhu, as described above, is a devotee of the Lord. His concern, therefore, is to enlighten people in devotional service to the Lord. So that the concern of the sadhu should be, how am I going to get these people doing devotional service, that they want to do it for the Lord, sincerely, seriously. How to do that? That's his concern mostly. So these are some of the things we should also cultivate, because we are preaching. Right? So when we preach to people, we have to also think, how am I going to help this person go back to Godhead? What little I can give that will sustain them for the rest of their life. Even if I'm not here, that will propel them to help another person also, something valuable. So if you give bad things, that also is going to generate bad reactions. And if you give good, then you will have good reactions. Whatever good you do, if you do good, then you will become humble also. You will say, no, Krishna made me do. But if you do bad things, you cannot blame it on anyone but yourself, because he'll still come back to you. And if people praise you, you can say that is Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy, that's all. But it's not my doing, because actually we are not the doers anyway. We are just, our desires must be pure. So concern means your desire for the welfare of that individuals must be what? Genuine.
Then the mercy flows.
Huh?
Then the mercy flows.
Yeah, it has to be yours really. Sometimes you go back and you think, how this person, Krishna, not thinking how I can bring them under my control, and then I'll have good control of them. Yeah. then you are sorry. Huh? Yeah. It should be like that. One should think very carefully. And then Prabhupada says that is his mercy. What is the mercy? He's trying to connect the people to Krishna. That is the mercy. So Prabhupada was doing that. He was always encouraging his disciples and newcomers how to connect with Krishna. Right? By his behavior, he was connecting them through him to Krishna. Because if they are favorable to him, then they are favorable to Krishna indirectly. So therefore, our action is so important. We may not be on the high category of sadhu, but still people will say you are sadhu sometimes. They will say, oh, you're so nice, you're sadhu. And then tomorrow they'll come and say, you rascal, you did this to me in my life. So therefore, your behavior is so important. It's true. He knows that without devotional service to the Lord, human life is spoiled. So these are things that you should always think for yourself. How much you know, that the missed opportunities, huh? The human life is spoiled if they are not doing devotional life. A devotee travels all over the country from door to door preaching. Be Krishna conscious. Be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Don't spoil your life in simply fulfilling your animal propensities. Human life is meant for self-realization or Krishna consciousness. It's like Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda going door to door, like that. Of course, you can't do like that everywhere, huh?
With the humility, but the
Yeah.
essence, spirit is there.
Spirit must be there to do that, yeah. You can't do it in many places. Like, you can't knock on everyone's door. They'll, in America, they'll take a gun and shoot, So you must know how to present it or approach them. So these are some of the things. And so you need someone who's expert, like Vaisheshika Prabhu is very expert in preaching to people, distributing books. So you go under his guidance, you learn all those techniques, and he easily does it. He's like very empowered person. Yeah, it's like second nature for him. These are the preachings of a sadhu. Yeah. He's not satisfied with his own liberation. He always thinks about others. He is the most compassionate personality towards all the fallen souls. This kind of thinking is at a level of Bhava and above personalities who have this thing. One of his qualifications, therefore, is Karunika, great mercy to the fallen souls. While engaged in preaching work, he has to meet with so many opposing elements, and therefore the sadhu or devotee of the Lord has to be very tolerant. So you have to be very tolerant also. You cannot get disturbed. So this also, therefore I was saying the other day, if you do books, you get to learn tolerance a lot, because you get so many people reject you until your ego is smashed. Then you accept that I'm not the doer. Then Krishna reciprocates. Prabhupada continues in the last paragraph. A sadhu behaves with all conditioned souls for their ultimate relief from material entanglement. Therefore, no one can be more friendly than a sadhu in relieving a conditioned soul. A sadhu is calm and he quietly and peacefully follows the principles of scripture. Right? So that means he follows the regulations all very nicely, not complaining and then why we have to do this, why I have to fast, why I can't see, cannot eat this. No, people still after initiation also they ask all this. Well, it's true because they are not trained properly. So one has to be trained to know how to be like a sadhu. Peacefully, happily, follow these rules and regulations. A sadhu means one who follows the principles of scripture and at the same time is a devotee of the Lord. One who actually follows the principles of scripture must be a devotee of God, because all the Shastras instruct us to obey the orders of the personality of Godhead. Sadhu, therefore, means a follower of the scripture injunctions and a devotee of the Lord. Now, Prabhupada says that 3-4 times. No? So it's not, because a lot of these sadhus are not devotees of God. Yeah. They exactly, we had one guy who was a lecturer in a university, and then when he retired, he put on the Indian guy, so he put on the saffron cloth, and then he'll go to different temples, and then wherever he goes, he pretends to be a sadhu. He grow beard and all. Just like Prabhupada said, not because you wear saffron and beard. He did exactly that.
Actually, I saw one person here in Bellevue.
Yeah.
So, I took one of my relatives there.
Anyway,
said,
let me finish what I'm saying, and then you can cut in. So, this guy, he goes to different temples pretending to be a sadhu and sadhu. Then he came to our temple also one day. And then he started, listening to Prabhupada, everything, and then asking questions and all. So the sannyasis all will come and then they will respect him and so on. And then one day, one devotee heard him talking to some guests coming. He was telling them, don't come here in this ISKCON, go somewhere else. Yeah. So then when that devotee heard that, the devotee complained to the authorities. And then the authorities were like caught in between because everyone in the congregation have seen him. They think he's a sadhu. So but anyway, the decision was made, and then they called the police the next time he came to tell him not to come to the property. So the police caught him, and he said, "What did I do wrong?" And the policeman said, "You're not allowed to come here." Then he said, "Why not? I can come to a temple and so on." Then the authorities told the police, "We don't want him here." Then the police said, "You give him in writing, and I'm witness here, and it's official." So we wrote it in front of him, and he can. So then he stayed away. Yeah. And then after many months later, he came again. So then we told him, we are calling the police. Then he left. So he was, and then he went to another place. He cheated this lady, got money from her, and then he told her that he'll do something, and then became a big police case. And this guy has so many properties in the city. So this is what's going on nowadays. It's happening. So, and the other thing is, he also opened a non-profit organization. He put all the money in there, but he couldn't take it out.
That's how Krishna's plan.
So you can see how they all try all kinds of things. Text 22.
मय्यनन्येन भावेन भक्तिं कुर्वन्ति ये दृढाम् मत्कृते त्यक्तकर्माणः त्यक्तस्वजनबन्धवः.
Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. Okay, so that means if you want to have the title sadhu, that means you have to be very fixed in your devotional service. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. That means he's not involved in the family relationship anymore. You know? And even the friendly relationship is not there. He may say, yes, I know them, but
He's friend to all.
he's now a friend to the whole world actually. So in the purport, in the middle of the purport, Prabhupada writes, a sadhu is one who has given up all responsibility to society, family, and worldly humanitarianism, simply for the service of the Lord. As soon as he takes his birth in the world, a person has so many responsibilities and obligations. To the public, to the demigods, to the great sages, to the general living beings, to his parents, to the family, forefathers, and to many others. When he gives up all such obligations for the sake of the service of the Supreme Lord, he is not punished for such renunciation of obligation. But if for sense gratification a person renounces all such obligations, he is punished by the law of nature. So you can't artificially give up. That's the other thing. There's a massive reaction. So one has to follow according to Sadhu Shastra, Guru Sadhu Shastra. By instructions of Guru, by the recommendation of Sadhu, then you can do these things, giving up responsibilities. Otherwise, one has to suffer the consequences. One more, text 23.
Mad ashray 23, right?
Yeah.
मद आश्रयाः कथामृष्टाः शृण्वन्ते कथयन्ति च तपन्ति विविधास्ताप नैतान् मद्गतचेतसः.
Engage constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Remember, she asked about freedom from material miseries. So he's explaining how these people are not affected at all. The Prabhupada says there are multifarious miseries in material existence. Those pertaining to the body and the mind, those imposed by other living entities, and those imposed by natural disturbances. But a sadhu is not disturbed by such miserable conditions because his mind is always filled with Krishna consciousness. So again, you can check yourself and see, how much you are affected by certain things that happen in your life. And then you can see how Krishna conscious you actually are. Do you think of Krishna, or do you worry about the situation? And thus he does not like to talk about anything but the activities of the Lord. Maharaj Ambaresh did not speak of anything but the pastimes of the Lord. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. He engaged his words only in the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sadhus are always interested in hearing about the activities of the Lord or his devotees. Since they are filled with Krishna consciousness, they are forgetful of material miseries. Ordinary conditioned souls, being forgetful of the activities of the Lord, are always full of anxieties and material tribulations. On the other hand, since the devotees always engage in the topics of the Lord, they are forgetful of the miseries of material existence. Prabhupada says that twice actually. Almost 3 times he says that. Saying if you are a devotee, you forget miseries of material existence. Okay, we'll stop here for today. Now the next meeting would be on.
Tomorrow you can keep 6 to 7:30.
I don't know, but so many people.
Tomorrow we have temple service.
See, look at him. How he is talking.
6 to 7:30 is the evening.
No,
is
we
fine.
have been given the service.
Yeah.
Okay.
It not
Then we can.
Hmm?
Thursday we do.
But Thursday, I don't think I want to do it. Maybe too much.
First we can do
First
1 hour. Maybe.
When?
We can take a break. Afternoon time.
No, you have to tell me when. You can't just say morning, afternoon.
Morning is
Evening
difficult.
will be having service in the temple.
Evening you can do, right? Afternoon.
Somebody and other will have service.
Yeah, I know, but you all have to tell me when.
Morning 10 we have to do.
In that case, tomorrow also we can have.
I think morning 10
In that
to
case, we can have tomorrow also, Prabhu. Like 1.5 hours is okay, actually.
What time is the service tomorrow? What services you need to do?
Tomorrow because of the
Hang on. What are the services you have to do?
cooking.
Okay, cooking, what time you start?
Cooking is done by
10 o'clock.
5, 6,
5 o'clock we start and it will go till 9 o'clock. Last year also it just kept on going. They will keep coming. We are
It's
feeding them.
31st tomorrow.
Yeah, 31st Eve.
So we will done.
Yeah, we need a couple of them will come. Sunday.
Daytime all the cooking will be done.
So I thought 31st people come in midnight, right?
Midnight, yeah. Normal cooking will be done in the afternoon.
No, there is no normal cooking. We are making some special things and we are making them hot.
Okay,
Special treatment.
What is the special menu?
Chow mein for me. The other people are doing other
Oh,
things.
okay, so the menu.
We make it on the
It's
spot.
food So then Sunday, first we can do 10 to.
No, how many people are cooking tomorrow?
I don't know, I'm not cooking, but I'm helping.
Cooking, but I'm.
Yeah, I have washing service.
So if you can do yours early, then you're free, but you can't because yours must be hot.
It's
3 by 6:30.
3 by?
Yeah, I'm also free by 6.
So then I can do, no? And finish this chapter.
Yeah.
Then Thursday we meet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But first, I think first 10 to 11:30 we can do. I think that time mostly nobody will
everybody will
have
come.
10 people.
10 to 11:30.
Uh-huh.
On first 10 to 11:30.
So not tomorrow.
No, then we can drop it tomorrow. And on first we can keep 10 to 11:30 and then the woods can go first.
About 10 is difficult, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Everyone go up to midnight, 1 o'clock.
Okay, 11 to
11 to
12:30.
You can't go through it.
It's not, it won't work on the first.
is on first.
But it would be nice to have on the first page.
It may be nice, but
Okay,
then
10:30 to 12.
10 to 11:30 seems to be
That
nice.
is fine.
Yeah,
Then.
it's fine.
We all has to go through
We
some
can
austerity. So if you want Bhagavatam, the beginning of the first day of
Meeting
the
of people.
right?
What time? 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
10 to 11:30 is good.
10 to
10 to
11
11
is
morning.
good.
How is coming?
No, people will be coming, but it's not all of us.
Should be okay.
all days they will come.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said, Prabhu says it's okay 10 to 11. Since
Yeah.
he is always representing Harivilas Prabhu.
He is in trouble.
No,
Yeah,
I
so-
will leave at 11 because I have my
Yeah,
service
that's fine.
there,
So
but
we'll
other
do at
people-
what?
10 to 11:30 is good.
10 to 11:30.
I think.
And hopefully we can finish.
Coordinate so that some
But
people are
anyway,
there. We'll make
Thursday
sure that
we'll
some-
meet.
Some devotees
Oh,
will
we have
just
so many devotees who are not coming here. They can be there. We can schedule stay with them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's something you all have to
We can
do.
coordinate with the
Right,
people.
so all the devotees come.
Okay, so Thursday I will have to meet you all. So then I'll tell you what you need, all of you need to do for the next year, including your homework, assignments, essays, right? Tests.
Which we are so good at doing.
No, because next year you have to do the